Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Tower 9 podcast. Another crazy week for Dundalk Football Club. We have had protests, pizzas, and we've also had 3 points. Joining me as always, Stephen McKevitt, Chris Clark, and Andrew Gallagher. How's it going, lads?
What the crack?
Evening.
I don't know what this feels like. Feels weird.
What do you think, lads? Who wants to go first?
I feel like I'm in a time machine. I've gone back 2 years, lads.
Gally said he wants to go.
Gally, go for it.
Oh, I
Gally, you go first.
Finally.
Yeah, look, it's great sitting here talking with 3 points. It's and I think I'm not going to. I won't say we probably weren't a better team, but I think we worked for it. I think I felt like there was that little bit of bite in them. Particularly with Mickey Duffy, a lot of tackles in his own half, and I just thought a wee bit more about us this week. I don't know if it's, maybe the training changed during the week, or there's a wee bit of, I don't know, they just seem to get stuck in during the week, whatever. Maybe it's something they're eating at a rock salt. I don't know what it is, but I just felt that there was just that little bit about them tonight. Look, when we started, we didn't actually start that slow. I mean, Rovers probably were slightly better until we scored, and then look, if you just hold on for 5 minutes, just hold a goal for a couple of minutes. It's so important. But I felt like we could have got something. Like even when it was 1-1, I did feel we were slightly better. I did feel that we probably weren't going to implode like we normally do. There was just something about it tonight. I don't know if maybe the protest outside. I don't know if that geared up the players.
Should we have a protest every week then?
We should probably protest every week. Yeah. Just, even if they're not playing at home, just have it. But yeah, look, I think there's some good individual performance, some not so good ones. I thought Sahiba was non-existent in the first half. Not that I don't want to cram down on the result, but yeah, look, I was impressed. I don't think we are brilliant. Rovers, like I said last week, Rovers have to be slightly poor if you're going to knock them off their perch a little bit. But there's nothing sweeter than taking a record like that off a team like Shamrock Rovers. It's yeah, look, it's a great way to start the weekend. It's brilliant. Not to say.
Steph.
Yeah, I don't think any of us expected that performance and result. I think we were hoping against hope really to pick up something from the game, but playing against Rovers, who dominated possession really at the start, sort of played into our hands to hit them on the counter. I think the goal itself, the first goal, was prime example of it. The breakaway goal, and I don't know where their defence went, but it was great to see it. McElhenney took his time. He didn't rush it, and just showed his class with the finish. That's it. Like, they sort of had more of the ball, and we were hitting them on the counter. We looked dangerous the whole time. I suppose pace is massive. We had instead of just having it with Duffy on the left hand side, we had it both sides. The real, like, Kelly's serious pace, and sometimes you'd be frustrated with him. He doesn't utilise it enough, maybe. But tonight, the game just suited him down to the ground. I thought he was excellent. But look, it's positives all around, I suppose. And we rode our luck, but I think you sort of deserve that when you battle as hard as we did, and we challenge for everything. And it's an easy game to get up for, but we just hope that we can show more of that. Like, we want to see that every week. Like, if we're doing that against supposedly the best team in the league, why can't we do it every game?
Yeah.
So that's going to be the big challenge for the next few weeks. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's that we don't have the manager to drive us on. And look, when you're a player and you see this game rolling around and everyone seems to be against you, or nobody's giving you a chance, including the Town End boys. You sort of use that as motivation, and they've done that tonight. I know Rovers hit the woodwork about 27 times, but look, we'll take it.
Yeah, well, I think, what was it? Was it 3 in the end or something? It was 2 in the second half at least, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
But we've hit the post and crossbar so many times, so it was bound to break even at some stage.
Exactly. Yeah, I honestly thought, lads, just from ourselves talking, what we say every week, it's always, Fats, it's going to be man of the match here. And I thought this was going to be a walkover. Man scores a goal, sets up an assist. All I can see in comments coming in so far is Dan Kelly and Dan Kelly, Dan Kelly, Dan Kelly, Dan Kelly. So we might have a rollover in a different direction tonight, lads. But I'll let you do a rally call in a moment, Steph, for Fats later. Yeah, I'm similar to yourselves. I think sometimes we rode our luck, and at times I think we put Shamrock Rovers under a lot of pressure in parts of the second half. I think Ole probably could have wrapped the game up at 3-2 on that. Even for our first goal, it's been a few years since I've seen us really attack so quickly on the counter attack. Like that used to be a real facet of Dundalk teams before, that we would soak up pressure, hit you on the break, bang, back of the net, and teams would just be absolutely shell-shocked from it. And it was really good to see that sort of play back in a Dundalk team again. Then I was disappointed. I thought, oh no, we're back to the usual. What was it? Less than 2 minutes later, we concede, and it's a calamity goal between the BB and Shields. I don't think anyone wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to actually clear the ball. The BB probably could have threw his hat on it. It was just sitting on the ground, and somehow he still managed to pull it away. I see someone's looking for a P45 for him already. But
you should have had it already, for God's sake.
Yeah, I think I'm glad to see, because normally, do you know what? It was funny. How many times have we also said on this show that we've got to stop giving away silly free kicks?
Yeah.
And Cameron Dunnigan just goes and gives away a silly free kick just after we've gone in the lead, and that leads to their equaliser. So I was delighted to see us dig out and get the win, because I think, like you say, Gally, we deserved that bit of luck.
Yeah.
I think we played well enough to win the match. If it had been a draw, I think you probably would have said it was hard luck from us, because we got the lead, and even though they had really good chances to come back into it. But yeah, I think we were good enough for that win. I think we were due a bit of luck from the amount of crossbars and that, like you say. But I'll absolutely take that. To break Shamrock Rovers' record as well, like that's gonna just go on and on anyway. And I think it was mentioned in the commentary, but I was looking at it before. Am I right in saying the last time they lost in the league was 2019 when we beat them 3-2?
Yeah, I think Niall Newberry actually had that tweet up.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm glad he's coming on later.
Yeah,
I think I've just stolen his thing.
Coincidence. That's not coincidence. That's not a fix. That's coincidence.
Yeah, I should have just looked at the comments. Didn't have to do bloody research. I should have just gone to Twitter. What am I?
No, it is. Yeah, it's a mad stat.
Yeah. But like we mentioned week after week, like we have to score two if the BB's in goals nearly, because there is that mistake in them. Like so.
Yeah.
It's nice. I think just when you mentioned the keeper, not to go on, but it's nice that even though there's a mistake that's been made, it hasn't cost us the points. Usually, all season, it's been costing us games, the losses more than anything else. You know, I think there's a mix-up with everybody tonight. They were all just waiting to get on the ball. I don't actually think he needs to dive for the ball. He seems to slap it back into play. It's not doing anything. But look at, you can ignore them when you're winning games, but obviously it's not. It's still not great. It's still an issue, but it's nice that it hasn't cost us tonight, especially against Rovers. Again, like I said, they have to have an off night, but I mean, we all want it. I think we just shared it.
I think would you blame McManus for the winner? It seemed to kind of go through his hands slightly, didn't it? But it was some hit. I want to give him the credit more than it was poor goalkeeping, because you got to put yourself in that position. But I think, Steph, you said it already, having a balance maybe of having Kelly on the right, natural right winger, pace, running at people. You could even see him closing down when McMillan was up top on his own for most of the game. He was up pushing and pressing defenders. I think we've missed that a lot, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just seemed like there was a hunger there that hasn't been there since months. Like it probably since the cup final, and even before that, we hadn't really showed it as well. Like the hunger to win the ball back, put people under pressure. Like before, like we've mentioned it, people throwing their hands up in the air if they make a mistake instead of working to get it back. But it was just like you can give up the chances then, because you can see the boys working hard, whereas none trying and people just giving out to each other was just hard to watch. Like it was just work ethic and attitude. I suppose that's what we showed tonight, and it's great to see it back. But we just need
missing for a lot, though, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, massively. Like you can just tell by body language, people react to certain things. So look, hopefully this leads on to. Hopefully they can take a lot from this game, and like I said, playing against the best team in the league, and they do that. So hopefully we can bring it forward.
Yeah. Gally, anything to add?
Yeah, I think they grafted a result out. That, like, I mean, you have to remember Chris Shields played centre half tonight.
Yeah,
and when Sahibo, he's okay in the set. For me, he's non-existent in the first half. He just didn't. It was like chalk and cheese. Now, he wasn't brilliant in the second half either, but he was a lot better. His first half with his passing, there was something going to nobody. It was just frightening. But that's what you want. I mean, if they produce that every week. Now, luck won't always be on your side. Graham Burke hits the post with an absolute ping of a shot. But
Green's one when he tried the lob as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
What about the bounce? It looked like there was a trampoline underneath it or something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's fantastic.
But nights like that, I think of all what the season they've had and the last couple of weeks, I think they probably earned that. They've grafted that out and they've grinded it out. And it's hopefully it's. I said it when we beat Drogs a couple of weeks. Was it Drogs or Derry?
Yeah.
I said this would be the start of something. I'm repeating myself again. So hopefully
Did anyone call this 2-1? By the way, no way. No one called it.
I had 2-1.
I had 2-1 to Dundalk.
Yeah.
2-0 Rovers.
Yeah, I can't even find where I wrote them down last week. There's no way anyone called that.
I had Rovers 2-0.
Rovers 2-0. There we go. Well, at least you're honest.
Yeah.
Give me that.
You need nights like that. That could be a kickstart or something. You don't know, but like Dan Kelly, like you said, was well up for that game tonight, and that's what we're expecting of Junior. I think that's what they expected to put Junior on as well. But it's just not. It's Dan's a completely different level, and that's what he gives you. Brilliant. Yes. He's brilliant.
Steph, it's bad when I look into the comments and I see you commenting. It's not good, pal. You're not counting. I'm
trying to win a pizza. and gather morale for
I'll give you this, right? I've just been totaling them up as they're going. It's quite close between Dan Kelly and Fats.
Come on.
But Kelly's still leading. So
Patrick McElhenney, come on, let's do
it. Around now, we'd probably welcome in first guest, and we had a first guest all lined up to about 25
to 10.
About 6 seconds. About 6 seconds before we went live.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Matty Tipton won't be able to join us tonight. So to fill in his boots, we have somebody who luckily knows everything about Matthew Tipton and can answer all the questions. So that's really, really, that was a stroke of luck. Donal, you're very welcome back to the show. How are you?
Yeah, look, line up all these Tipton questions. I am ready to go. What do you want to know? I can do this whole podcast as him if you want.
I think we should. And we can just give you Matty's name tag and everything underneath you. If that's
What boots were you wearing when you scored a hat-trick against the Rovers?
Shooting boots.
Yeah. I told you that's why you got them on, lads.
You know all about it, Steph. You know about them boots.
Donal, what did you think of the match tonight?
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it? I think there was, like you guys have been saying, there's still a lot of things that need to be looked at, still a lot of things that need to be addressed. But it's just nice to have a win in a big game when it could have gone either way at the end, like goal-mouth scrambles and stuff. Like, it feels like we've been not getting the rub of the green with goal-mouth scrambles at the end of the games and brilliant goalkeeping saves at the end of the games to keep 1 point from 3 and turn a loss into a win, or into a draw. So it was nice to get that tonight. I'm sorry, Steph, but I have to say, Fats was great, and Fats had a massive part in the second goal as well, because he won the ball back. But
told you we shouldn't have got him on.
Tipton told me it was Dan Kelly, and if I don't say Dan Kelly, I thought he was brilliant. And but it was just interesting too to see what he would have thought, like, because Dan Cleary is injured. So Chris Shields obviously had to play centre back. Sonny's out, Gartland's out. How much that affected the team selection of having Kelly and Duffy and McElhenney on the field, because I don't know if they all would have played.
Possibly
because I assumed during the week that it was going to be Sahivo and Shields as like 2 6s in midfield, and then maybe just McElhenney and McMillan or whoever was up front then. So I don't know whether those injuries actually weirdly helped us in our like counter attack tonight.
Yeah,
it's a fair point, because I think that's how we were always going to win, that our team selection, because we were always saying that it's very hard to pick our team, to decide if you had everybody fit. I think we'd even struggle, the four of us here, to pick who's the best to play in each, because they're so choppy changey all the time and nobody's in form, because you never get to play in your regular position, let's say, too often. So I think you're right. Maybe the hand was forced slightly tonight, and it actually gave us a lot more balance all over the pitch. And even at the end, when Mitskogan come on, I think we were nearly playing 4-4-2 for a while. It's like, oh my God, we got 2 lads up front. When did that happen? That's like,
yeah.
It's interesting. But yeah, I think you're right. Probably just having a natural right winger though makes a hell of a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's the kind of performance that we wanted from Kelly for a long time. Like, we've kind of gotten like in fits and starts every once in a while. You get in a couple of European games off the bench, he'd be good, or he'd be good in this game but not good in the next game, and then be on the bench. So like, you're looking for him now to make to call that spot as his own, and that we know going into each game that we're going to have Duffy one side, Kelly one side, and either Hoobman or McMillan up front, or whoever's the informed striker. Like, and I think once we start to get settled in those positions, like, I was trying to find a GIF earlier on Twitter of someone trying to empty out water from a boat with a hole in their bucket, because it feels like that's kind of what we're doing with our goalkeeper. That I've been saying this for ages about not going behind in games. Like, we haven't lost a game that we've gone ahead in, and we haven't won a game that we've gone behind it. And it's like giving up stupid goals and stupid mistakes. And it was like, right, we were in front. We're set up already to like get behind Rovers, to like clear out the space and stuff like that, and then just to give up a stupid goal, and you're like, oh, we're just back, we started again. But I think if, like, I don't know when they're going to be able to sort out the goalkeeping issue, but if they can sort that out at some point in July, maybe, then, you know, if we just start playing a settled team, you'll probably start to see the best out of players. And Stanton was great as well tonight.
A couple of shouts there for man of the match for Stanton, would you believe? Yeah,
it's nice to have a few shouts. It's nice not to be. We got 3 or 4 in there. So
Dan Kelly, Fats, Duffy, Stanton, Zaebo even for one. So I didn't like you go against you there, Gally, on that one.
Darren Meenan give a shout for Zahiba, as one of the commentators on the Dundalk FM call him. I won't name any names.
Slano went against you though, Steph.
Yeah, that's typical. That's right. He didn't just, come on here to slate me.
So. That's the full back rivalry from back in the day, though.
Yeah.
Donal doesn't know it because he's up front scoring, you see, so he knows.
It would have been an amazing night in Oriel too, wouldn't it? Like, after everything that was happening outside, and everything.
I thought the exact same. Yeah,
that
was a night. Like the 5-1 victory that time the Tipton played, like that night, the atmosphere in Oriel was electric. I was up in the gantry over the shed, and that place was hopping. And I just thought tonight would have been one now. Our form was a bit iffy going into that game back then as well. And then that victory just kind of silenced them a little, and it would have been the exact same again tonight.
Yeah, you'd be thinking like it would have been just the perfect night that like everybody would have come together in Oriel behind the team. Like, you knew everybody would have been behind the team, and to get the result, and the manner in which they got the result, because it was a lot of it was just through hard work. There was also the ballsy decision to let Sean Gannon have the ball whenever he wanted, because we all know he's finished. Which fair play to the boys for doing that, because I would have been a little bit iffy on it myself. But they just decided, no, he's not going to do it, but let him have the ball. So,
I think he was getting some abuse tonight from the town end wall. James Rogers had tweeted earlier to say that he was getting some abuse. All right.
Yeah. But no, it just would have been an amazing night in Oriel. That's the only thing I could think at the end.
Yeah. But look, hopefully we get back up there soon, and
Donal, just I suppose since the last time you've been on, the merry-go-round at Oriel Park has kicked into gear, and many gears from there. What's your take on everything that's happened at the moment? And we'll get on to maybe the protests and things like that after. But let's just look at everything else within the club first and foremost, and then we'll come to the fans.
Yeah, well, the last time I was on was the Rovers game at the start of the season. Yeah. And I think we knew at that stage, obviously we knew at that stage that there was stuff that wasn't right in the club. We still had the dual managers, or Filippo was still there and Shane Keegan was still there. And obviously since then we've had so much upheaval and so much uncertainty around the place that it's amazing how it filters out into like the fan base and into conversations that you're having with people. Like even after tonight, even after the win tonight, in a couple of days or the next game, if something goes wrong, it'll be like, oh look, we're fighting a losing battle here. So I think it's been a really, really tough start to the season. Like on the field, I think sometimes they've been incredibly unlucky not to pick up more points than they've gotten. Now, a lot of times they haven't really deserved it. They've not played well, but they've had chances to get goals late in games and they haven't taken them. But I think the if results kept, like tonight would give everybody a lift. But then after the next game, if there's a bad result in the next couple of games, then it's just all going to come back, and the bad feeling is going to come back, and it's tough to turn that around long term. It's good in the short term to get a good result and get everybody back on board, but in the long term, all those problems are just going to keep coming back until we have some sort of resolution. Now, I don't know what that resolution is actually going to end up being, because it seems like obviously the board and the owners and everything, everybody's set in their ways and they're going to do things the way they're going to do things. And I don't know how much we can affect it or how much protests are going to affect it. So it's like, that's the thing that I had with the protest tonight was like, it's great to go out and voice your displeasure and stuff, but what the end game is, I'm not entirely sure. Like what we think is going to happen, and realistically what we think is going to happen.
I think the gut reaction from the protest has a lot to do with Bill's comments of, oh, was there a banner there? I never seen it. If you like, it was very obvious he's seen one about Filippo that time, but he didn't see his one. That was, that was very good of him. But I just think that sort of language probably has forced the hands of these lads to want to protest even more, because it's as in, oh, you didn't see that? Well, you're going to see the next one. And chances are there's going to be another one after that too. Until some sort of change, and I suppose that's what they're driving to, is some sort of change within the structures of the club. I think when running parallel to that, then you have, I suppose, the early stages of a supporters group being formed. I think that's the way it'll end up going. That we'll have a voice from some sort of a supporters group. But unfortunately, a little of this, I think, falls back on us fans. We rode the railroad for a bit with, all the great times we were having. And we didn't form a supporters group. We didn't look for a voice on the board. We were happy how everything was being run. Unfortunately, in times of adversity, we're now scrambling back saying, oh, actually, we probably should have got this. But I think when you look at the board structure at the moment, the board is made up of 4 people. Two of them are father and son. Another one is the accountant, and Padraig McGowan, who I believe could be a non-voting member of that board. So it doesn't bode well to have a healthy competition or a healthy conflict in the boardroom when that's the dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the frustration of a lot of the supporters too.
Yeah,
and it's probably justified. It's all justified.
I was in the Zoom meeting during the week that the supporters club, or the beginning of the supporters group set up, and the main thing that I felt from it was that this, whatever we decide to do, whatever comes of all of this, it has to continue on, even if we turn around and win the league this year, next year, the year after. Like that, it can't just be something that comes out of adversity, like you said. It can't just be that now that things aren't going as well, we're like, we should have been doing this the whole time. That there has to be there's like a responsibility on the supporters group that even when things are going well, like they have been going for like 3 or 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, whatever length of time it was, that things were going wrong and we were just turning a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
Like every time we come back to this, like to Oriel at the start of the season, and it would look exactly the same no matter what had happened the season before. Yeah. But you knew the team on the field was going to do whatever, like we're going to challenge for titles and cups and stuff. So we complained about it, but nothing. Didn't really do much about it. And I understand, like, I'm completely behind protesting him and the things that he's said and the way that the club is set up. It's more just that I just kind of struggle to see what a realistic end point of this is going to be. Like, we're just going to get angrier and angrier, and Bill's just going to say, all right, okay, I've had enough now. You sort it out yourselves. Like, it's maybe I'm dumb. I don't know. I can't really see what.
No, like you're right. That's an absolute possibility, and that's the fear. That's probably worst case scenario. Like that, at the minute, that's like. Yeah, I not that I back the protest. I am 100% behind, especially what happened today. I think it went off without a hitch. I don't think there's nothing to report. I think it was fine. I was up there myself, just having a little gander. But I think if it's I'm not being nosy.
He's the banner in the boot of the car.
Provided they get the message across and stuff like that. But yeah, look, if there's every chance that they could say, look, let's just pull the pin on this. And that's, I said it here last week, some players aren't signing contracts next year. But if they do get signed the contracts, them contracts have to be honoured. So it's a catch-22 at the minute.
But like the whole sizers or peak six, whatever way you want to look at it, I suppose, if they decided this isn't for them anymore, okay, like I think it was mentioned, I actually think it could have been James Rogers mentioned that there might be a strategic meeting by peak six in the coming weeks about the direction that they're taking Dundalk Football Club. Like if this isn't for them anymore, we have to have something. Like they just can't, like they can't turn around and say, okay, we're not in for this anymore. We're going to hand the club over. Like who are they handing it to? Like there is nobody to hand them. That's why I think it's so important that we have some sort of a supporters club that could technically run something short term, if that was the case. Now, I don't think that is the case because, guy, like you say, no supporters club would be able to afford the wage structure that's currently up there, because that's based on them putting X amount of money in and hoping they're going to recoup that back through European money later in the season. So that strategy, you have to have a lot of money up front to actually make that work. And there's no way a fan-run club would work in that structure, I don't think. So you're looking for investment again. We were very lucky, I think, the last time with the Fastfix lads coming on board that just had a massive love for the club and didn't want to see it go under. But how many more individuals like that is there that you could rely on that has pockets willing to invest into the club again? I don't know.
I heard the town end had a bit of a fun together. That was
well, if you buy more t-shirts,
big bill. No, not wrong. I mean, where's the money from these going?
Keep buying the mugs at the top.
Your pocket. What's the story?
Let's just say we've sold one of those t-shirts
and one of these mugs as well.
What a mug! Fantastic mug.
Yeah, I had tweeted the picture of the mug earlier when Rovers had scored, and this might backfire on me horribly. I like genuinely going to delete the tweet that had like, I have a mug for this after Fat scored, and then like, oh, that backfired.
Yeah. Look, isn't that
It all ended well.
But it's a shame, really, isn't it, that after a game like this, after a night like this, that this is what the big story is. Like, this is what the talking point is, that we do have to still go back to everything that's happening, that we can enjoy the game when it's on, but then you have to face the reality.
Yeah, like, and I don't think we're not taking anything away from the players or the performance tonight, because I think we'll all agree it was top notch for everything. But still, in the back of all our mind is exactly where we're going as a club, and where the owners want us to be as a club, if they're still interested, and how that looks. I mean, I think my real worry about it is that structure that's currently on the board is it's too tight for me. I think it was 8 originally, and that's half down to that. So like, there's just no diversity, and it doesn't allow for any outside influence bar the whole sizers, and that's a bit worrying for me, because they could just say, oh yeah, keep running it there, and then invest a little less. Suddenly the club's not worth anything, and they've driven it into the ground. That's my fear.
Yeah, you just need someone like you said already to come back in. I wonder with the Fast Fix lads be in a position to come back in. I don't know. Like, I think someone's mentioned it to me before, but they might just have the funds to run it the way it's been run at the minute. Like, you're hearing figures, some of the players, and even with Gelton's on, and you're saying, Jesus, like, can I get a job there?
Yeah. But like, the worry is still, it's what? Andy Boyle and some of our under-19s are the only ones signed up for next year.
Yeah, okay.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
That's
like, that's worrying.
Kelly's son.
Yeah. But you know, like, that's the real worry, is where are we going? With no manager in place, with still uncertainty over at board level. There's so many questions. Like you say, Donal, we'd love to be just going, hey, you know, after beating Rovers, this is great. We all feel great. Roll on the next. Let's get something against Bows. Let's get something against Pats and finish the break here on a high. We're flying again. But the reality is, we're going into another week now, which is probably full of more speculation than Dundalk Football Club on the lead in. And it's a Monday, Friday game. You would think, oh, there couldn't be anything coming out of that. But you know there's going to be something. And it's scary.
3 managers linked.
They might approach Eddie O'Sullivan to take over. So it's the same as like jumping from one code to the next, isn't it?
Yeah.
We did that with Ireland once.
Yeah. Davy Fitz was sniffing around, I heard.
Davy Fitz. I tell you what, he motivated him.
Yeah, motivator. We won't go there, Gally, will we?
No.
Oh, we can. We'll go there later.
Donal, look, we're supposed to finish up with yourself. 2 more games before the break here. What's your realistic target out of that? 4 points, or can we get 2 wins, or just stay undefeated? What's the goal, you think?
It's kind of, if you think like the goal is still somehow that they'll challenge for the title, then obviously they have to win the 2 games. The reality is they're not going to challenge for the title. So you're looking at, like, I still think like they've been in every single game, which is absolutely mad. Like, every game they're in. So they're perfectly capable of going and winning these 2 games, which is the most frustrating thing. Even watching them tonight is like, they can do this. Like, they can beat the best team in the country. Now, the other thing as well with Rovers tonight was like they had absolutely no bench, and they were missing a lot of players. I know we were missing a lot of players too, but just that we did beat them. But I know they'll be like, oh yeah, but we had like 14-year-olds on the bench or something like that. But they going into the 2 games with Bows and Pats is like, you have to think you're going to go in and win them. They've got the quality to go in and win those 2 games.
That's it. It's so inconsistent. That's exactly it. It's just, you don't know what you're going to get. Like, you know, it's just like tonight was great. It was like, you know, we weren't outstanding, but I just felt we were going to do enough to get it. But it could be an absolute like just a flip of a coin next week. What's going to happen? It's just like, and I go back to it as well. Like Chris Shields at the back, Danny starting from the start. Danny Kelly, he's made something. He actually took Danny Kelly off, which I thought he probably could have got a few minutes out of him. But
probably fearing injury. We can't afford any more.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, but it was just one of those nights where I think it didn't click, but it's as close as we've gotten all season. But like it could be a completely different ball game next week. Yeah, it's just they're so inconsistent. But look, consistency has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
If someone says to you at the end of next week any two results of the Dundalk games, like Dundalk won 5-0 and they lost 6-1, you'd probably go yeah. You know, that sort of way. Just you can't predict how to, like, everyone was saying no chance against Rovers tonight, and look, they've pulled it out of that. So we're just hoping if they can put in the performances like they have tonight. Donal's itching to say something here.
I was just going to say, if you go to DonalHanks.com and read the last blog, someone did give Dundalk a chance tonight.
Oh.
No way.
No, I wasn't confident.
Was it 2-1?
But it's more that in the game of 90 minutes, either team can win.
That's like the sort of political answer Steph hates.
Yeah.
Let's build a fence.
There's a reason why people use those, It's like...
You've probably also said the dog could get hammered as well, but look, we won't let that.
I actually can't remember if I did, so I might have. But yeah,
Look, you give us a chance more than I did, so fair play.
Yeah, I absolutely meant it when I said it.
Donal, two last things then before we finish up with yourself. How did the food go tonight? Seamlessly?
Yeah, because it wasn't 5:45 last week. Was a nightmare. 5:45 on Friday should be outlawed. It's a disgrace.
I agree.
Any time to eat food after work. You're drunker far quicker because you've had no food, and then the next day you can't remember anything that happened during the game.
It's not good when you write a blog, is it?
Yeah. Well, some of those books I don't remember writing, but
they're up there.
I'm putting you down for Dan Kelly. Am I right? For a man of the match.
Yeah, but we never did.
I don't
definitely facts.
Donal, I think you're the first guest we've had a repeat guest, are you?
He is first repeat guest.
Very good.
How's it feel?
Congratulations.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure. I was just checking to see if Tipton wanted to change his pick, but no, he's still going with that.
I suggest you message him immediately, asking him to change his picture to you, saying I've done a better job.
You should probably message him apologizing for pretending to be him for about. No, I didn't actually. Anyway, no, I should probably just. I said that and upset.
We got the scoring boots part. You're right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Donal, thank you so much. Thanks so much for jumping in tonight for us too. We really do appreciate it. And look, we'll definitely have you back on again for the third and fourth time, no doubt, before the end of the season. Once it's not an early kickoff, we don't want you in bad form.
Yeah. I'll be too drunk, I won't know.
Perfect. Donal, thanks as always.
Thanks very much.
See you, pal. Right. Well, look, at least there's a bit of optimism around all Dundalk fans tonight, which is very good.
It's nice.
Lads, it's going to be very hard not to go with Dan Kelly as man of the match. He is running away with this. So I suggest, Steph, you need to come up with a witty saying around Dickie Kelly now. And I reckon no Dickie's not going to work.
Yeah, look, we'll just give it to me a few weeks ago for going a bit X-rated, so
yeah,
we'll have to think of something before the end of the night.
We'll think about that one, and we'll think about it for another mug.
Yeah.
Our next guest is ready there with us. So we have joining us tonight is Niall Newberry, who is the football reporter from the Democrat. Niall, you were in Oriel tonight. How was it?
Hi lads, how's getting on? How you getting on? Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, it was. To say it was an eventful night up in Oriel would probably be a bit of an understatement. I got up there myself around just before 6 o'clock to see what the crack was in relation to the protest outside. I'm sure you've already covered that. I'm only jumping on now, but like, look, from what I could see, like it seemed to have gone quite well. Like it was peaceful enough. I didn't see any antisocial, violent behaviour or anything like that, or any like the guard presence. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like nothing to write home about, Chris. Really, like it was just your standard sort of peaceful protest. I might add, like the main entrance into Oriel was cordoned off. So I have to say, like the security, was absolutely superb. They done a top job maintaining that sort of maintain that security and safety for everybody concerned. Even for myself coming in, because like there was lots of flares and stuff like that being let off. But I think I didn't hear any reports or see anything that was out of order from anybody. Although I suppose we might hear something tomorrow. I don't know. But then the game itself, it was a strange enough match. I felt, you know what I mean. Like I thought Shamrock Rovers, dominated possession for large spells and probably wondered how to defend themselves behind after 11 minutes. I thought Patrick, for the goal, like obviously Daniel Kelly back from injury, plays a lovely pass into Patrick McElhaney, and like he showed really, really good composure. But you can't underestimate, like that's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he showed tremendous strength, I thought, and composure. And it was a great finish as well. Manus, it gave Manus virtually no chance. It arguably the best goalkeeper in the league, and Rovers were really caught napping, I felt, at that point. I think, it really caught them off guard. And it was a magnificent finish. Less than 2 minutes later, we're sitting here thinking, Dundalk, this is more like it. We're on the way to maybe getting a good win here. And less than 2 minutes later, I don't want to put the entire blame on Eliseo Abibi. I think it's a little bit unfair to single out players. I'm not a big fan of singling out players, but it was another howler. But I do think his defence probably could have helped him out a little bit. You know what I mean? I think there was a couple of chances to clear it, and I only caught a glimpse of it. Really, it was just a scramble. And next of all, the veteran Joey O'Brien is just tapping in really from close range, and you're just wondering what is going on. And you're thinking there and then, this is the same old story. Dundalk's going to lose 2 or 3-1 here, and Rovers, but like. I think just to point out, I think an interesting observation from tonight in the first half and the second half would have been like for all, particularly in the first half, for all their domination of possession, they didn't create a whole lot. Like Dundalk had the next chance in the first half, and but Rovers like will probably feel like having hit the post a couple of times at the crossbar, they'll be wondering how they haven't come away from Oriel tonight with something. Second half. I'm full. Like, half time, I'm talking to other people up in the stand, and I'm fully expecting Rovers to kind of push on and get the 3 points. But Daniel Kelly, what can I say? Like, you know what I mean? It was a scorching. It was a scorcher, I think, is what you call that. Like, and again, it was a lovely assist from McElhaney. I thought they were the 2 standout players tonight. I know you've kind of touched on man of the matches and stuff like that, but there's no question that Patrick McElhaney and Daniel Kelly were the 2 standout performers tonight.
We'll have to push you now on one of those now, I'd say, later on.
I'm conflicted on it, to be honest, guys. To be honest, like I think Kelly, like both of them are involved in the 2 goals. Kelly only coming back from an injury as well, and I think it's his birthday today as well. I'm not sure.
It is. That's right.
Yeah. So we actually spoke to him just after the game, and he's a lovely chap. So I'll come back to that one. But I thought Sam Stanton, put on a really good shift tonight as well. I thought, in midfield, a lot of his work kind of went on notes. Yeah, like I thought he done really well. And he's come in for a bit of criticism, himself. You know what I mean? Being one of the new players. I thought he was really good. It was a very workmanlike performance from Dundalk tonight. I thought. You know what I mean? It was a lot different to what maybe we were used to in the glory days under Stephen Kenny and even Vinnie Perth's league winning season. Like it was a great result, but it wasn't like. You couldn't really turn around, maybe with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 players, and say like it was a great performance from Dundalk tonight. I think it was just they worked really hard and they worked for each other. And I think, Jimmy Gilton would be absolutely delighted, but he'd be hoping it'll be a catalyst. Like there is 2 big games coming up now before the mid-season break, and one of them's on. There's a quick turnaround. Monday night they go to Dalymount for a really tough game against Bows, and
they lost again.
Yeah, and then Pat's obviously got another result tonight high flying. You know, that's Richmond Park on Friday night. So they're two really difficult assignments before the mid-season break, and it's frustrating because I did ask Daniel Kelly, you know, after the match. You know, for me, it's frustrating personally because first and foremost, as a Dundalk supporter, you know, and I have, and maybe like I've been kind of, people have had a go at me in the last few weeks, you know, for maybe not, I wouldn't say defended the players. Like I've been giving the players the benefit of the doubt, to be honest, because, you know, we signed, I think 12 new players, and they've all pretty much come from new leagues, new countries. And, you know, you got to look at it and say, like, you know, Jim Magilton's in there as the sporting director. He's on the touchline for the last few games. The start of the season, we had the absolute cataclysmic disaster of, you know, Shane Keegan on the touchline, and he's obviously disclosed in an off-the-ball interview recently that he wasn't the manager. Filippo, I know, was in the stand for large portions of games during that time. So effectively, you'd be looking at a team that's, you know, that's really been playing without a manager the entire season when you think about it. Like, it's, and when you bring it, and like, it's tough. It would even be tough for the Stephen Kenny team of 2016 to come in and play without a manager. So you're panning together, you know, lads from different countries, all different backgrounds. Some of them haven't got, you know, some of them are English, mightn't be all that good as well. And it's very difficult to kind of throw these players out and expect them to go into autopilot and sort of just, you know, pick up a massive thing. And I know, like, people have gone on to me and said, well, like, you know, these players are on big money and they should be able to do this and they should be able to do that. But, like, I know in my day job, like, you know, if I don't have somebody who I'm looking at as the leader, like, I'm struggling, to be honest. And like, to be fair, like, I think, you know, if we're going to criticize, like, the new foreign imports who've come into the club, and that's a fair criticism, I would say, because, you know, let's be honest, the first half of the season hasn't been good enough, and it just hasn't, like, tonight being maybe an exception, and maybe the first half against Drogheda maybe being an exception, but it hasn't been good enough. Yeah. But, like, you know, like, you can say the foreign players haven't made an impact, but I'm looking at Andy Boyle, I'm looking at Chris Shields, I'm looking at people like that, you know, who've been, you know, even Michael Duffy hasn't been at his best. Yeah, and they haven't been at their best. And that's when I kind of look at it and say, you know, this isn't just the new players. This isn't just the foreign players. It's a much broader issue. And I think, you know, obviously the protest before the game tonight, you know, was very valid. And I absolutely support anybody's right to have a protest. And I know there's two sides. Like, there's obviously ways you do things. And I think the guys, you know, were very respectful to people, to staff members as well at the ground and things like that. But yeah, and I think tonight, you know, it was a much better sort of showing from Dundalk. You know, it was really good to sort of, you know, end Shamrock Rovers' sort of winning run, or unbeaten run, I should say. It probably should have ended last week against Derry City, only for a bizarre refereeing sort of call, or whatever you want to call it. I don't think it's even an under-8s game, to be honest with you, or an under-8s training session even. But, like,
funny, on camera tonight, you could see the ball had gone out for a throw once or twice, and Fats was nearly knocking it back down the line once or twice. I wonder if that's something of, you know, you're trying to gain yards, or we'll knock you back a few yards. But, you know, it's smart play too. Don't give it to them.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, and you're right, Chris. Like, the Dundalk, even, you know, I know Alicia Obibi got booked near the end for, you know, what can be only described as time waste, and we're not really used to seeing Dundalk doing things like that over the last few years. Anyway, we have been spoiled rotten, like, in many respects. But, like, the Dundalk dug deep tonight, and I think, you know, it was a very workmanlike performance. And, you know, you can't, like, how they got the results, you know, like Rovers, you know, the Dundalk rode the luck, to put it mildly. Like, the Rovers.
I think Rovers have rode their luck of late too. Like, they haven't been performing well, and yet they've got late winners. They've got a dubious goal, like you say, against Derry there. You know, they've been quite lucky in a lot of their games too. And a lot of people have said that going forward, they're very good. But if you actually get them on the ropes, they're not the best team. But yet they're miles ahead of everyone else in this league because they just seem to be organised better. Maybe that's more of it. Donal just come up with a point there before you, just saying that, you know, maybe perhaps the fact that our hands were tied with injuries and who we played here, that actually gave it a lot more balance to the team tonight. Did you see that as well? Is that what you saw?
Yeah, like, obviously, like,
obviously Shields playing in defence.
Yeah, like, you've got Shields, he played centre half tonight, and, you know, he put in a decent shift. I think a lot of the lads put in decent shifts tonight. It was a very depleted sort of look. We've been riddled with injuries the entire season. Like, it's and like, I don't know. Like, I'm not a professional sports person. You know, as Jerry Malone reminds me on a weekly basis. I couldn't even get on the CBS team, in school. Like, you know what I mean? So
you didn't pick me either, so don't worry.
Yeah, I'm a good company, Chris. So, but but the fitness has obviously been called into question quite a lot of the players, and and I don't like to be one who's kind of questioning professional athletes' fitness when I'm sitting here, not in the best shape of my life. Do you know what I mean? But it has been an issue, and there's been the team news came out yesterday. Obviously, Wilfred Zahibo played tonight, and he didn't play badly. I wouldn't say. Now, he had a few iffy moments, a few hairy moments in the first half. Maybe I don't think he was fully fit by any stretch, but he put in a good shift for whatever fuel he had in the tank, which probably wasn't a whole lot. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's something we got to look at. The club need to look at that and say they need to look at the training sessions. It seems we're constantly having a litany of injuries, and when you're and I know Shields put in a good shift tonight, but when you're playing Chris Shields as a centre half with all the money that's kind of been spent at Oriel Park and the amount of players that have been brought in, you're sort of looking at that and you're thinking, why is that? Like, we had a bizarre situation last week in Donegal, where Daniel Kelly was named on the team sheet as a substitute and he didn't travel with the team. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like he was injured. You know what I mean? So these are things that just don't really help the situation when people are, talking about Peak Six and Bill Hulsizer and stuff like that. But I do agree with that point that, it probably did give a bit more balance. The fact that the group was so limited tonight. So they had to play like a Finn Harps. They had to play like one of the so-called lower ranked teams. And it worked for them tonight. They didn't overcomplicate things tonight, which maybe with the exception of the goal,
their goal, I would say, yes, the one thing
Alicio, Abibi, yeah, I think. But in fairness to the goalkeeper, he made a couple of good saves throughout the game as well. And if we're going to be balanced and criticise the goalkeeper, we have to give him credit as well, because he did make a couple of good stops in the game as well, I thought. But he's certainly not good for the blood pressure, that's for sure. But that's true. At the same time, because every time the ball, and that in itself is an issue for not only for supporters but for the rest of the players. If the players aren't comfortable with a goalkeeper playing behind them, it's going to be a factor. But tonight we probably got away with it. I wouldn't say we're back to our best. It was probably we're probably due a bit of luck. I definitely agree with your point, Chris, in relation to Rovers not being all they're cracked up to be. I think we've seen that in any time I've watched Rovers, even the games against Dundalk, but even other games, Derry being the most recent example last week, they haven't wowed me by any stretch. And I think tonight, hitting the post, hitting the bar, not getting that rubber degree, I think tonight their luck sort of ran out. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they respond now, because Sligo and Pats, we're picking up results.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. But yeah, I think Dundalk. Hopefully, we're all hoping here that we can build on this. But look, the way the season's gone, it could be an absolute disaster on Monday night against Foes. And
that's it.
It would be typical.
Could easily.
Yes.
Niall, I think if we look at the broader picture then of Oriel Park and Dundalk, I mean, it's for I suppose for a football reporter, this is the club that just keeps on giving every week. There's something new in the headlines for you to pick and kind of go in deep on it. Have you ever seen a time like this where the club is just constantly in turmoil?
No, and you're right, Chris. It's been, it's like this isn't even my full-time gig, you know what I mean? And at times it feels
have
like
to be with the way Dundalk goes.
Yeah, it feels like it at times, because even going back to last year, it's just been chaotic, and it's been more like a soap opera than a football club at times. It seems every week there's something new coming out. There's a new bizarre story that I'm hearing, or someone's telling me about this, someone's telling me about that, and there seems to be common denominators, and I think we all know what they are. You know what I mean? And it's very difficult. And but I think what's very important is there's been a lot of talk this week in particular, obviously in relation to the protest and the meeting which took place between Jim Magilton and a group of supporters on Wednesday evening.
Yeah.
We all know, Bill has gone on record in another podcast, I think, as saying that, he was happy to speak with supporters or liaise with supporters. Now, one of the big takeaways, I read the statement that the lads put out after the meeting on Wednesday. And the big takeaway I took was that, you know, Jim Magilton couldn't offer the lads any assurances whatsoever that, you know, Bill would be willing to partake in any collaborative communication between the club and supporters going forward. Like, so it sounds like that's not good. That doesn't help a situation like this.
No.
When, you know, the chairman's saying one thing, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, and then he's kind of just nearly going back. And I don't know, it could be a situation where there's just no communication between Magilton and Hull, but like that's not good either. Do you know what I mean? Like, if that is the case. And I don't think Jim Magilton, in fairness to him, was in any position really to answer any serious questions on Wednesday from the lads. Like, you know what I mean? I think it was always going to be lip service. It was always going to be sort of just, you know, I wasn't here, I don't know. And look, he wasn't here for the majority of this. Let's be honest. Like, it's very worrying. It's a very worrying situation because, you know, Bill Hulsizer I've only met him once. I've actually only met him once, and I met him once I actually met him at Windsor Park at the United Union match at the end of 2019. And I didn't know who he was at the time. Like, and I bumped into him outside Windsor, and I kind of gathered that he was with the Peak Six posse because he was obviously his accent, he was American, this, that, and the other thing. But I just came away thinking that was a very odd fellow. Like, you know what I mean? I just thought, like, you know, he was very eccentric, really, really eccentric. You know, he had a go at me before the name. Not have a go at me, but like he sort of had a. Well, maybe he was having a go at me on reflection about the name of our paper because apparently he's a big, you know, his politics didn't really, the name, the Democrat, didn't really fit in with his political agenda over in the States, like, you know what I mean? So he had a bit of a go at me, like, you know what I mean, nearly, like, you know, and I left that day thinking, oh, that chap or that guy was only joking, like, you know what I mean? But then after everything that kind of happened, I'm thinking, was he joking with me that night? But yeah, he was very odd, eccentric, a very odd, eccentric fella. Like, people have tried to get in touch with him, like, and he's just not been available. He's not an easy man to get hold of. But like, at the end of the day, like, you know what I mean? I think you can't.
How do we resolve this? How do we get it back? In your eyes, what needs to happen for the club to go back to a more stable footing going forward? What has to happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
It's probably the best way to look at that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Like, you know what I mean? I think obviously there's been a lot spoken about, you know, like obviously that I actually popped into the supporters meeting that was organised by Brendan Ogle, and I think you know Dean, who's with you guys, was a big part of that as well. And I think
hanging around here somewhere. Hang on, I don't know. If you're still here.
How's it going? Finally,
there we go.
How you doing, Dean? But it was a good meet. It was good to listen to what people were saying, and I think and one of the things that was brought up, and I know Brendan Ogle was a big pusher of the 50+1 model that we have in Germany, and I think the lads did put it to Jim Magilton on Wednesday, you know, having, you know, maybe a fan representative on the board of directors, and Magilton sort of has nearly laughed that notion off. Like he said it was far-fetched in a press conference yesterday, and like, to me, that's very worrying. You know, because I don't see personally any issue. Like, no one's saying, oh, they need to take a share of the club or they need to own this and that. All the guys are asking for, the supporters, all that's been asked really is, can we have a representative from the supporters on the board of directors? And if more or less been told in no uncertain terms that no, that is not going to happen under any circumstances. And Magilton, I think, was a tad disrespectful in his approach to that. He labelled the notion far-fetched in a presser yesterday, and the lads fed that back as well. I think
you're being a bit kind saying that.
Yeah, you know, yeah. So I think that's alarming. That's alarming because that shows that there isn't going to be an immediate fix up here. Like, you know what I mean? There isn't going to be an immediate change of philosophy of how the clubs run. Look, I understand that there is a supporter liaison situation going to be announced maybe on Monday or something like that.
Yeah, but like unofficially, they kind of were able to talk about it today. So Stephen Todd and Jane McDermott are now the two club supporter liaison officers. So that's good. At least that's a link directly for supporters. And I think, you know, we had Jane on here before, and Jane was very vocal, let's say, about raising the standards of match day experience for all.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Jane was originally talking about going in for people with disabilities and how do we improve match day experience for that. But I think she's broadened her horizons to just include it for all supporters now. And I think that's a good way going forward. We need more of that because we've heard so many volunteers aren't there anymore. So if there's somebody in this sort of capacity or any capacity, I warmly welcome it, because I think that's what's needed up in Oriel Park is voices like theirs who can raise concern for fans. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think, like, you know, it would be perhaps unbalanced to say that, you know, there's nothing good going on up at Oriel Park. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there is you know, there is positive, and like that is a very positive step in my opinion. Like, and like there's also, like, if we're going to be balanced about things as well, like there's also been a narrative, and like I know a lot of good volunteers and good local people have been removed or have left the club or whatever, but like there is a narrative out there that the club is anti-local, which is not entirely true when you think about it, because, you know, we have seen, you know, to use an immediate example, you've got Stephen McDonnell, who's the youth academy director. You've got people like Padraig McGowan, who's been made club secretary, who's been a long-term follower of the club. You know, Des Dunleavy was appointed to the board of directors. So like there is local people being brought in the last few months, like in significant roles. Like, so yeah, that's positive, but like there is an issue with, like, and we can't lay, like, obviously I can't say what my thoughts on Bill are. I think people can probably gauge from some of what I've written, maybe that I'm maybe not pro Bill, but like, I don't think it would be fair either to put the entire blame on one man. Like, you look at the board, like the board at the moment is actually very slim. Like, you look at it, Peak Six have only been in charge of the club since, you know, 2018, and in that time, in that time alone, you know, I think by my recollection anyway, you know, 8 board members have come and gone, and with the exception of with the exception of Martin Connolly, the other 7 were people that Peak Six either started with or brought in themselves. The board's down to 4 so I think now you've only got, you know, Hulzizer himself and James Babulis, David Sennett, and Des Dunleavy. Like, if we're going to blame Bill for a lot of stuff, and we should, like, you know, Bill's the chairman and fuck's off with the chairman. But like, David Sennett is actually the longest serving member of the board. He's actually the only person who was there at the original meeting, I think, when Peak Six took over the club. And yet we don't really hear his name being mentioned. We don't hear James Babulis' name being mentioned. I don't think it'd be fair to put Des Dunleavy in that same bracket now, because I think Des, you know, is kind of in there because obviously there's an EU company law where you need somebody resident in the country. And Des, in fairness, like, has done great work. I'm constantly seeing, like, Des is also the. Do you know if he has voting rights on that board, or is it a non-voting position? I wonder.
I have non-voting, but I don't know.
Yeah. It seems to be a very. I obviously don't know the finer details, but I think Steph's right. I think it is very much a closed shop, like, you know what I mean. And like, again, and like, I know, like, there's a lot of people. What would be the harm in
putting a supporter or somebody representing supporters on the board to have a non-voting role then?
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, there'd be absolutely no issue with that, and there shouldn't be an issue with that. Now, Peak Six have obviously fed back to Jim Magilton that there would be an issue with that. He's completely brushed that theory off, that notion off, that a fan representative, like an elected, bearing in mind, an elected fan representative would be taking a seat on the board, just to sit in some of these director meetings or whatever and see what's actually really going on. I think that's very important. They constantly talk about open and transparency and all this stuff, but like, that's a bit of a nonsense, you know what I mean? When we factor in some of the things that have gone on, like, and like, it's not only. I don't think it's only like a recent thing. Like, I think, you know, towards even the end of the Vinnie Perrott league winning season in 2019, we obviously saw the situation with the cup final where, you know, there was a lot of situations with the suspension and the Chris Shields suspension, and there was a lot of aggro up at Oriel over that. Like, and you've sensed like Michael Tracy was the chairman obviously before Bill, but there was things going on, and like people like Jordan Gardner and some high profile board members like Jordan Gardner and people like that, like, had left the club like long before Bill came along. Like, more recently, we've seen the likes of Michael Hughes, who was the vice chairman, and Fred Spencer leave or be removed. I'm not sure what the subject matter of those departures were like, but they've happened, and it seems to me like I can only give an honest opinion, like, but it seems at the moment, it seems anybody who sort of looks at Bill funny is just removed from the board. So, you know, we saw like, Yeah, well, I definitely won't be on the board anytime soon.
We'll form our own board together.
But yeah, no, it is very worrying. And to answer the question, like, there probably is no quick fix, Clark, Chris. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there probably is no quick fix. Like it's really
worrying.
Tonight's result aside, it's very alarming. Some of the things that have even come out this week from the official lines from the club have just been really, really worrying. I'd say, from my point of view, anyway. I think it's nonsense. A lot of it, like, you know.
Thanks so much for your time tonight, Niall. Just one final thing, just with a message just in there. Any word on new managers? Have you heard anything further? Apparently, Mickey Duffy played Jimmy's winning matches on the tannoy tonight, did he? After the match, so
that's true. Yeah, he did. You know, yeah. There's been a lot of speculation. Obviously, Jim. It's no secret that Jim McGuinness's name has popped up this week. I didn't see him at Oriel tonight now, to be honest, before I'm asked. But like, Jim Magilton admitted that he met Jim McGuinness. I'm not sure if that would go any further. Like, obviously, we've had people like, you know, David Healy was the front runner for a long time. I personally heard David Healy was the front runner. Not sure if David Healy would want to come into a situation like this though at the moment. There's been other names as well that have been thrown about. You know, people like I heard Curtis Fleming's name mentioned this week. You know, John Sheridan's name's been doing the rounds a bit too. Not sure how alarming that would be for a lot a lot of people.
He wants to manage in the pub league again, does he?
Yeah, well, you're right, Stephen. That would be full circle if we got John Sheridan in after the Finney Perthgate last year. But yeah, there's been a lot of speculation. And obviously, like the Gerard Little rumor hasn't really gone away either. Obviously, you know, I think Jim Magilton would know Gerard Little reasonably well, and I'm not saying that means anything, but like maybe they should get Vito from the Sopranos to come in and manage the team, because it seems that, you know,
he got actually man in a match tonight, so
he clearly motivated the team tonight, and he's done everything that, you know, the rest of the guys couldn't do, and he motivated them tonight and he's got the results. So maybe give him the job. I don't know, but I think the way Pick Six kind of operate, you know, it could be anybody from Roddy Collins to Archbishop Tutu, like, you know what I mean? It really is one of them, like, you know what I mean? And like, it's very hard to kind of put a finger on, because there's lots of names, and I've been throwing lots of names, and you can't really pick one, like, you know what I mean? And it's almost impossible. All I know is that Magilton has continuously said that he's getting tons of applications in the door. And Magilton himself was very coy again tonight on anything like that. He keeps his cards very close to his chest, like, and we probably won't know anything. Like, nothing's going to happen before the mid-season break anyway. So I think it'll probably be around then that we'll see some developments in that regard.
Everything will stay status quo for the next week, and they'll use that gap to maybe assess that situation.
You'd certainly hope so, Chris, because like it's not sustainable what's going on at the moment. Like, you can't keep throwing players out there. And tonight obviously was an exception. They got the result tonight, fair enough. But the chances are we're not going to get the same workmanlike performance against Bohemians or Pats if we're continuously like sending a team out and expecting them to go into autopilot. There's no structure to anything at the moment. There's no cohesion, like, you know what I mean? Like, and there hasn't been, like, for pretty much the whole season. And, you know, like, there needs to be a bit of stability put into the club. And the only way you can do that is just by hiring a manager, like, you know what I mean? And they need, and I think this is I know I'm going on a bit, but like, I think just like even this head coach stuff, you know, I know it works in Europe and it works in, you know, some of the Premier League clubs in England and stuff like that, but that can only work if you've got a situation that's, let's say, half normal at a club. Like, Dundalk don't have that, let's be honest, like, you know what I mean? We don't, and there's no point in dancing around that. We haven't got a normal situation coming back to the boardroom and going back to Florida or whatever. Like. So they need to get a manager. It can't be this head coach. It can't be dancing around this head coach, interim manager, caretaker manager, whatever they want to call it. Assistant head coach, blah, blah, blah. It needs to be a manager. It needs to be like what Stephen Kenny was basically. He's calling the shots. He's signing the players. He's picking the team. That's very, very important, because there's no chance in hell that a person like David Healy, whose stock's reasonably high at the moment, is going to walk into a situation as dysfunctional as Dundalk at the moment, unless he's given assurances in writing that he's not going to be getting any collect calls from Florida, you know, after full time. You know what I mean? Like, so,
or during the game.
Or during the game. Well, yeah. Well, I'll say nothing about that, Stefan. But yeah, okay. But, yeah.
I think that's the most peak six thing ever, though. Ring you on a collect call, so you have to charge for it. I think that's summed it all up. Niall, thanks so much for your time tonight. And look, we'd love to have you back on throughout the season, if that's okay.
Pleasure, lads, and best luck with the podcast. It's been great. I've enjoyed watching it the last few weeks, so keep it going. Keep our
Cheers,
layering.
Easy underbelly, you know what happens.
See you, lads. All the best.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Pat.
Thanks,
Cheers.
man. Thank you, Pat. It's always good to have someone in who's got the same views as us on Peak Six, huh?
Yeah. It's nice to get someone that's in there as well. You know, like someone who's at the game, someone who's kind of not behind the lines, but just someone who's got that wee bit of extra access that we don't have. You know, it's nice to hear that kind of view. But it was good. Yeah, it's interesting.
I think before we come to the man of the match competition for ourselves, it's very close. I'll give you that, Steph, and we still have to add our votes in. So there'll be one vote in it. I'm looking. If I go by my own calculations, I think there'll be one in it, one way or the other. So
he's going Shields again, Callie. He's going Shields again.
Can I have to say, Shields got no votes so far from anybody.
Really? That's a first.
She's gonna just get one then, I suppose.
Just one from me, yeah. So before we go to that, lads, I think just a view from yourselves on the week in Oriel Park, the protests, the meetings. What's your take on another week in Oriel Park? Steph, go you.
Mayhem. You keep hearing stories and you think, this is bullshit, and then you hear a little bit more about it, and then it gets confirmed, and then the next crazy story comes along, and you're in a cycle of this here. I think the supporters got together after the comments, like the interview, it led from the interview, James Rogers' interview with the chairman, and people weren't happy with it, and it sort of built up, and then we've spoke about just getting the supporters club together, and it needs to happen just to have a voice, and the club makes a connection with the supporters, the main people involved in the club, who are always going to be there, like players, managers come and go, owners, like the supporters stay loyal and are always going to be there. But from my point of view, only me thinking this, is just that they tried to avoid a protest, maybe. I think that's what the meeting was called. Like the supporters were called to Oriel. I don't even think they asked for the meeting. I think they were called up, and I think they were trying to avoid a protest in case it looked bad on the club, or there was going to be trouble, or worst case scenario, something happened like a game getting abandoned, because there was no answers from it. Any questions the supporters seemed to put to, it was either they didn't know, or they couldn't assure that, or like I don't think the fans were like, I don't know. I wasn't at the meeting. I'm just reading bits and pieces what I've seen, and it didn't seem like they were asking like to take over the club. Or I know some people are outside saying Bill out, and I think if Bill goes, maybe Peak Six definitely go as well. So I don't know what the answer is, but it just seemed like they were. I don't know what the point to the whole meeting was from the Dundalk side. It'd be interesting to hear, but you don't hear anything. Again, it's a closed shop. You're not gonna hear anything from it. The manager situation still is anybody's guess. I don't even know if Magelta knows what. But like you're hearing,
coming in due course. Anyway, we'll probably hear something
in due course. We've heard in due course since he came in the first week. So
I know, Pingu, you have to jump off, so we might just bring you in real quick. I mean, you were on the supporters club town hall meeting. I suppose if you want to fill us in on that.
Yeah, just apologies in advance because I'm outside here at work, so it might be a bit windy when I'm talking. But yeah, no, look, I was on the call on Tuesday. It was for the most part, it was very, very productive. We talked about the formulation of a independent supporters club. We tried to steer clear of a lot of the issues that are happening around the club and just focus on developing a sustainable supporters club that can be around long term, as Chris, as yourself, myself and Gally know after a failed attempt to build a sustainable supporters club. I think it's important now more than ever that, after all the success that we've had, that we're building a supporters club, not just because of the crisis that we're in right now. It's building something that's going to last and stand the test of time. So it's still a long way off. We kind of said, we agreed that we're going to form a steering committee similar to the idea that Kieran Callan had with his proposal. That steering committee is going to work over a little bit of time to come up with the idea of a supporters club. Then once it's formed, then the board of directors of a supporters club will be voted in. So just because you're on the steering committee doesn't necessarily mean you either want to be on the board long term. It's just more so just to set stuff up, and then it can be a fully democratic supporters club that way. Which I think, looking back on the Lily White supporters club, I think we all wish in hindsight that we got voted off the board as soon as it was formed. But but no, look, it was a very, very productive meeting. Everybody had high emotions, and we're very much in favour of forming a supporters club. And then obviously the topic kind of turned towards the protest. I was brought up a couple of lads that were involved in organising the protest, were on the call, and they were explaining, and they were asked questions by people that was obviously concerned about the meeting and the protest, and was it going to be peaceful and different things like that there, But it's, look, the last week, it's hard to say that the last week's probably been the craziest this season, because it's just been a wacky season, it's been nuts. But I suppose, following on then, obviously the lads had their meeting. Again, they came out and said they came out and gave their side of the story of what they believe happened in the meeting and stuff like that, or what was spoke about, which I think, again, it didn't fill anybody with confidence. It didn't fill the lads with confidence. It didn't fill any of us that read the report with much confidence. I think then they released a second statement yesterday where they said there was a little bit more good involved in the meeting. The club mentioned a couple of other things that they have in the pipeline that's good, which I hope to be factual. Not to say that anyone was being disingenuous in the meeting, but I just hope the good stuff comes out. I think they had said that Peak Six had committed a substantial amount of money towards ground redevelopment, which, fingers crossed, is true. If I'm giving my honest opinion, I would take that with a pinch of salt. But look, that's just my opinion. We have to take it at face value for now. And then obviously the protest, then it all kind of culminated in the protest tonight, which I think there was going to be a load of trouble, but Gally had to leave early, so he was ready to start flinging bottles and everything at the Rovers bus.
He had to go and put the kids down to bed, so
exactly. But
he was just shining them teeth, and it all just happened there.
Teeth whitening strips before he got in.
Yeah, but I think you look at the protest, and by all accounts, it was peaceful, and I think it's a credit to the supporters. I think everybody. There's a common goal here. We want to make sure we have a club going forward. As I said on the meeting, this isn't a save our club. This is a retain our club, and we just want to make sure, no matter what happens in the short term, long term, that our club is gonna continue on, and that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think, did you get the feeling that there's the right mix of people involved at the moment to get that ball rolling?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of the one thing we said is this supporters group has to incorporate every supporter, and by every supporter I mean it doesn't matter where you stand or sit in Oriel Park. It doesn't matter if you're a little former tubby lad living out in Chicago, or if you're living in Australia or anything like that there, it has to incorporate the whole Dundalk fan base, and it has to be for want of a better term, it has to be for the greater good of Dundalk Football Club. And I suppose one thing that I had brought up, and it was kind of my suggestion at the meeting the other night, was about having a supporters representative on the board of directors. And I mean, that was probably the most disappointing thing for me coming out of that meeting, was the fact that Jim laughed it off, and I heard an expletive was actually used. It came out of Jim's mouth when the suggestion was made, and he said no other club does it, even though every club in Germany does it. Chelsea done it, and I think Liverpool are doing it now too. So I suppose if we're going to work on one thing in the immediate, that would be the thing that I would keep pushing all along, is just that there's a supporters representative and a voting member on the board as well. I think that's important too, that they have a vote on all matters. And if they get it wrong, then the supporters can hold them accountable, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the whole thing, that there's accountability right the way through, that if you believe that someone isn't performing for you as your representative, that they can be voted off the supporters board and replaced with somebody else with fresh ideas. I suppose that's the whole way you'd want it working. Am I right?
Yeah, no, that's it exactly. You know, and it's the ideas that they'll be coming with will come from the board of a supporters club or the committee of a supporters club, which again will be decided by the supporters group as a whole. You know, everything. I know it's easier said than done, but everything has to go obviously with the majority rule. So, you know, things have to be decided by supporters and then brought to the club. And it's just, and even from club level, you know, if a supporter is representing our fans on the board, they make a decision, then they have to, as I say, they have to live with it. And if it's the wrong decision, as you say, Chris, you can replace them. You know, if they make, well, hopefully we give them a little bit of leeway. But if they make a couple of mistakes, like
Get them out.
then get them out. Exactly. Bring McKevin in, peak 7.
Peak 7, yeah.
What's the next steps for the group, do you think?
So I think we're going to meet again in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be the formulation of a steering committee then. So there'll probably be a subgroup that will be set up just to start working on getting this established. And thankfully, like I can say that long term, I probably can't be involved, but I'm committed to getting involved in the establishment of the supporters club, at least until it gets to the point where there's a formalisation and a vote and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah. Do you need to run there? Are you at work?
You can give me one more minute.
All right. Well, I need to quickly take one man in a match off you before you go anywhere.
I'm going to say fats, no party.
Right. Yeah.
What do we do if it's a draw, lad? We don't have 2 pizzas. Can people share a pizza?
Just give it to someone in the same household.
Any couples out there?
Gally, I suppose then, just for yourself then, what's your
I'll chat to you later, lads, all right?
Thanks,
all right,
Dean.
go for it. Talk to you next week.
Cheers, thank you.
What was your view on the week that was?
I think it was a week. It was probably a week of a big change. It's probably what fans really kind of said, right. I know we've had enough for a long time, but I think this week might have just, I won't say tipped it in anybody's favour. I won't say I don't think we got any leverage over anybody. I think the lads have made their voice known. I think the protest tonight, the fact that they got up, the fact that even the club, I know they were probably brought on, like Steph said, they were probably brought up to the club thinking like, you know, right, we'll get them in and maybe the protest won't happen. But at least they're engaged with them. And that was the whole idea. At least they've got their foot in the door, I suppose. Look, you hear things that were said at the meeting and then you don't really know what way to take it. But I think the important thing is engagement. But I mean, if they're treating them what you hear, then like you're back to square one again. You're not really doing anything. Like there's no point in bringing them up, making an idiot out of them, and then sending them back. And like I'm sure the boys. I'm sure apparently I think it was someone said they were up there for 2 hours, hour and a half, something like that. So at least there was obviously proper, you know, engagement or proper talking. But I would be worried if, like Dean said, if Jim's speaking to people like that, and it might not be just Jim, it could be here. I don't know, but I wasn't there. But Jim is a way of speaking to people that I can't speak for everybody, but personally, I don't like the way he speaks to people. I think it's awful. We've heard in interviews over and over again. I know I'm probably getting off the point here, but
all right.
Some of the way, like if you Steph sent me a snippet of the interview with the journalist yesterday. I think I got that about 7:20 this morning. I was fuming all day. Like to speak to people like that, to speak to Jerry Malone the way he spoke to people is absolutely disgraceful. Like I know people around town. Jerry's on Twitter. Jerry, there's no better man to go into an interview and ask someone tough questions than Jerry Malone because nobody else will ask it. He gets to the point. He's directly demanded for the job. Everybody else might dance around the idea, but he asked Jim outright. And I just thought the way he was answered was just... And I think I might have heard giggles in the background and that. Like, and I've seen him in interviews before. I've heard him talking to Jim before, and I can hear people in the background telling Jerry to hurry up. Like, the way he's spoken to is nothing short of disgrace. It's a massive lack of respect. It's borderline bullying, in my opinion. And I'll hold, this is not a town end podcast. This is my opinion, and I'll stand by it. But I think it's a disgrace the way he speaks to me. He's no right to speak to anybody like that. He's in a tough job. I don't envy it. But you have to be respectful. People are entitled to know, like, not all the information, but if they're asking an outright question, like, for instance, we're talking about the manager's job earlier on. Mm-hmm. It's 5 weeks ago tonight since Keegan walked away from the job. So that's 5 weeks we've sat with no manager. They've actually been out of the job longer than they were in the job at the start of the season. So the league only started 4 weeks before they left. Like, and all that turmoil in 4 weeks. So they're actually gone longer. So we're still sitting here, and I know myself and Steph were on the chat talking with Jim McGuinness, and I think it's mental he was offered a manager's job, but as a motivator, I absolutely think it could have been an idea. But obviously Steph's right in what he says. He's a sports psychologist. I've read his stuff, I've read his book, I've listened to his interviews. He's gone through a lot in his life personally. I think he could be someone to come in and absolutely, to speak to the players on the mental side of things. Now, that obviously wasn't what he was offered. But then you read today, he was offered a job till mid-season. Like, mid-season's in a month. Yeah. You know, like, why are we still offering people like, we thought the delay was David Healy. So why are we still offering people jobs this week? Like, why are we still in that position? Like, have we no idea who's going to get the job? It's mad. Like, we shouldn't 5 weeks later still offering people, well, will you come in till the end of the season? I actually thought it was the end of the season. It's only mid-season, apparently. Like, if they're going to be offering till the end of the season, go and get Roddy Collins. Roddy Collins will kick them into shape in a couple of weeks. Like, you can't expect an elite manager to come in till the end of the season. Like, I just don't get what they're doing. I don't understand. Is there no foresight? Like, Jim's got a contract beyond next season, so why doesn't he get someone in that's going to stay with him? Like, there just seems to be no foresight with it, and I just think it's been badly handled. It's been a bad week from the club side, but like most weeks are. But from the fan side, in fair play to them, listen to Brendan Logan, another podcast earlier on. I'm not on the supporters thing myself, but I think they've put their foot in the door. But I think silly little thing, like, it's only today I realised it was like 5 weeks. 5 weeks with a manager. Like, we've been longer without one than we had them. Like, it's like mind-boggling. And we're no further down the road, apparently. By the sounds of it, like, even talking to Niall, we're no further down the road to get a manager in, which is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, Niall mentioned that Magilton was saying he's still inundated with CVs and people applying for the job, and then Magilton comes out with, oh, well, look, we're just waiting for the right person to apply for it. Yeah. Like, go and headhunt somebody. Yeah. They're a big club. Like, there's enough talented managers out there that'll jump at the chance to manage Dundalk. A mess and all as it is behind the scenes. Like, surely they had a short list of who they wanted. Yeah, there's no way, unless it doesn't even seem like they've approached them. The first name we've heard mentioned that there's actually been talks has been Jim McGuinness, and like Gally said, it was on a short-term 3-day contract or something like that. but look, like, it's I can't get my head around it unless they're waiting for a board decision, like, are they gonna put the funds up for a new manager or what? I just can't understand why they haven't appointed somebody at this stage.
Yeah, and like, if Jim fancies the job, right, well, have a crack at it then. Just say, look, right, I'm taking this till the end of the season. Like, it's just the longer it goes on, it just stacks up. Like, you know, and Jim's probably frustrated. He's probably going into these interviews completely frustrated, and he's probably annoyed himself. I understand that, but you can't be taking it out on people. You can't, like, Jerry asked a simple question tonight, was Shields going to start tonight? And Jim's response was, none of your business. Like that's Jim getting worried of what's going off the field, but then taking it into press conference. You can't have that either. So you got to find a medium there. So, like Niall said, the only way this is going to be sorted is to hire a manager. Surely they've got someone on top of the list saying, right, we have to go and get this one. So there has to be. Like, it's 5 weeks. Like, I just don't get it. Look, I'm sure it's not easy, but it can't be that difficult. To have the resource to go and get managers, speak to them, plenty of contacts. Jim's got a wealth of knowledge. Like, It's mad. It's completely mad. I've hired 4 coaches in Castle and Bells in the last 2 weeks. We started training 2 weeks ago.
I was wondering how long it was going to take for this to come up of all the work you've
done.
done.
If you want someone, go and get them. You know, it's come on.
And I'm still waiting for my phone call. I haven't got you, Gally.
Next week, my assistant. Look, it just. I think clarifications just need. I know. Look, it can't be easy. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but 5 weeks in football is ridiculous to be without a manager. It'd be different if it was the last 5 weeks of the season. But we're only 4 weeks into it when the management team left, so we're longer without them. It's just ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, look, and I'm sure this will ramble on again. We will be no further down after the Bows match on Monday. We'll be still asking the same questions, no doubt, which is, it's a bizarre situation. Yeah, it's getting furious for us. I can only imagine what it must be like for the players, because the amount of guests, and we've mentioned it ourselves, that every time we're on, we worry about players' accountability, players' motivation, players, with so many short-term contracts still at the club. I mean, everyone's at that situation now, probably at this midterm break, where they can start discussing things with other clubs. We haven't got a manager in. We don't know what's happening with our owners. We've got, fans having to protest outside the ground to try to be heard. Would you sign for this club? Even in that high-pitched voice?
I don't think so. No.
Apart from all that.
But it's a lot of, at a time where you'd be trying to nail down your best players to long-term contracts, we're just putting a wrong foot forward, and we've been doing that for the past few weeks as a club. So it's getting really messy now at a time where I think we just need to get that sorted.
Yeah.
So
especially from the players' point of view, they're going to be looking ahead to their futures. They're all full-time footballers. They all rely on the wage. Like if another club comes in July when they're able to talk to them and offers them a 2-year deal, security, what are you going to do? And then like we've heard before with supposedly Sean Hoare and Sean Gannon, that Dundalk offered them contracts after they'd already agreed to go to Rovers. So
yeah,
we're going to be left in that boat again. So
yeah. Have we missed out on other players the same because they were offered long-term contracts elsewhere? The last thing, I think the reason for our success, and probably even Rovers' success over the past few seasons, has been stability in the main structures of the team. There hasn't been wholesale changes. You look at teams who do wholesale changes every year, always take a long time to gel together and then probably underperform that year. But consistency, if you can keep a decent core there at all times and add in, like we used to, maybe 3 new players, 4 new players to keep competition within the team, that tends to lead to a much better season for you. And yet, we were after going through a season where we just made massive changes, and it looks like next year we're going to be right back in the same boat again. Yeah,
even under Kenny, we were players in the likes of Jamie McGrath. I'm trying to think of other players. I'm sure there's loads of other players, but it nearly took them a season to bed in.
Duffy lost Hoare, or you lost Horgan. So
it took them a season to bed in, whereas we're trying to just what did Niall say, 12 new players, which is outrageous. And to try and gel them together, no pre-season. Look, we could replay episode 1. We're in the same position halfway through the season nearly.
Exactly. Right. In the interest of time, lads, we'll park this until Monday/Friday next week, and we can talk about all the same points again that we've done from episode 1 right away through to now. Right. Man in a match time. We are still only a couple of votes in it between Dan Kelly and Fats and Gally. I'll let you go first.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, I think everyone's pretty sure who Steph's going for here.
I think I thought 2 boys were excellent. It's between Fats and Kelly. I did think the 2 boys were excellent. I think they linked up. I'd never seen them linked. I've never seen them play that well together. I know I've seen them play a lot of times, but to me, I don't know if it was just because we haven't seen them all season. The 2 of them stood out like sore thumbs tonight. Mm-hmm. But for me,
in a good
and
way.
I think when he went up, he actually played up front. McMillan nearly went out right as well, and Kelly was up front. I think he just gave us that something different. And the fact that he's come back, he's been a long time injured. He's been out. Look, I have to give it to Dickie Kelly. I can't. And just because it annoys Steph as well, it doesn't help. But
can I say, I think the casting vote's finally going to come down to me tonight, lads. I'm going to sway this. I'm going to let you come in. It's going to be
a draw when he goes for Shieldsy.
Steph, you're up.
And it's Dan's birthday as well.
So you're just giving it to him because it's his birthday then?
Happy birthday, Dan.
Not the best player on the pitch. I'm sick of saying it. He is like when McElhenney performs, Dundalk perform, and anything that's good attacking wise, he's involved in. The last couple of weeks he's been out of the side and we've been struggling. He comes back in tonight and he's involved in everything good attacking wise, even his work rate, his link play. He set us on the road to the victory. He set up the second goal. I know Dan Kelly was excellent tonight as well. I was impressed with him. But look, no fats, no party at the end of the day. And I'm sticking with my man.
Good man, Steph. Stick to your guns.
Yeah, you know what.
Steph?
Yes.
I'm going to go with Gally.
That's all right. There's a boat wrong.
I just think he gives a lot of energy down the right that I've been calling him for the past few weeks. Took his goal extremely well. Played well.
Spoiled my night.
Pushed high up. Good tempo. Birthday boy. Beat the Shams.
Tainted victory now.
And I think he's added to a position that we needed. That's the thing. He's added to that wing position that we badly needed with Duffy.
I think Flano said though he was on ice after when he came off. So let's just hope that's a precaution.
We've had some under him, so we'll balance it.
So we can go back to
maybe he was icing himself because he was on fire all night, was he?
He'll be warmed up with a pizza later on. He'll be fine. So we're gonna go with Dickie for man of the match. So on the comments, it is randomly Robbie Ryan. Robbie Ryan is a winner.
Well done, Rob.
So I suppose get in contact with us and we'll do the usual and let Tony's knows. And thank you again, and as always, to Tony's Pizzeria for their prize every Friday night game as well. We'll be back to Monday. So Gally, have you still got mugs for us?
One.
He's one left.
Yeah.
Happy God, right? Because there was a couple of people looking for mugs because apparently we drank it so much tonight. People are wondering what the hell's going on with the mugs.
Yeah, we'll get one.
We'll have that back
to go run.
Monday night. Just before we go, lads, very quickly around predictions for the Bows match. Steph, what are we thinking?
2-0 Bows.
Jesus. Wait.
No. Yeah.
Straight, we'll go thinking there.
2-0 Jams.
I said 2-0 Shams and we 1-1. So, look, hopefully Georgie Kelly misses another penalty, or we don't give one away. Even better.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be tough short turnaround, but they're on the short turnaround as well. It's only the fact that we're missing. We're still down so many players. I don't know if the man of the match is going to be out for Monday after getting iced. We're going to go 1-1.
1-1.
1-1 to Dundalk.
Gally?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it'll all depend on how close we get to the starting lineup tonight. It's not even the starting lineup. If we can get that grit that they had tonight, because that's what's going to get them results. They're not going to motor teams the way they used to with Kenny ball and stuff like that. That's not there at the minute. I'm going to go for a repeater tonight. I'm going to go for 2-1.
2-1.
Good shot.
I think
Poor shot in the man of the match, but good shot.
I think we'll nick it. Something silly again. I'll take a backside. I'll take anything. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to us.
1-0 win.
No
Yeah.
concession. I don't. No conceding a goal.
And Darmian's going for 2-0.
Come on down.
Damn.
Confidence.
We're covering everything. Everything.
Yeah, Gally still has to give him his mug. I can't believe you still haven't given him his mug.
Have we not given him his mug?
I know. I dropped that around to you. Did I know?
Shh, don't tell him that. I told him it was you.
Did you sell it?
No,
You sold
look,
it.
look.
Steph sold it.
Look, I tried. We tried to meet up a couple of times and just couldn't make it happen yet. But look, we're waiting for McAllister's to open up, and we're gonna have a drink out of it, aren't we, Daz?
Take it in.
We haven't talked to
Live
McAllister's
podcast.
yet. Yeah, we've agreed a live podcast with McAllister's. McAllister's just don't know it yet, so. But yeah. Look,
Right.
hopefully we can get the mug to him soon.
Perfect. Look, we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back on Monday night after Bow's match in Dairyman Park. Thank you so much to Donal and Niall for jumping in tonight, and to everybody for all your comments again. Thank you for everyone for listening back to the show. Our listens are getting more and more each week, so thanks so much for that. And anyone that's not already subscribed to the podcast, please do that as well. At least you don't have to.
How are we doing in Malta?
We're still on the charts for Malta and Canada. And where's the other one?
We hit Venice one night, didn't we?
New Zealand. We've got loyal listeners in Malta, New Zealand, and Canada. So fair play to them.
Worldwide.
The Italians were listening in for a while, but
Yeah.
hope they haven't gone quiet just because Filippo's gone. Giuseppe's still there, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we'll hold that together. So thanks to everybody for taking part tonight. Thank you, lads. We'll see you again on Monday night. And Steph, for the night that's in it, for not getting the win, I'll give you the ending note.
No fats, no party.